Tonight, freedom of conscience or not your boss's business. The fight on Capitol Hill over contraception coverage. Madness in the Middle East. Israel could step up its military campaign. How will Hamas respond? Remembering the elderly. How Pope Francis plans to show support for senior citizens. And dinner is served, and it's not from the grocery store. Those stories and more on EWTN News Nightly for this Wednesday, July 16th, 2014. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brian Patrick. Looking at your news now, Palestinians say 4 boys were killed today during a naval bombardment of a coastal area in the Gaza Strip. Israeli warplanes carried out dozens more airstrikes. Hamas fired more rockets into Israel. A senior Hamas leader says the militant group will keep attacking Israel and will not accept any ceasefire deal that doesn't meet its demands. Hamas is demanding the easing of border closures and the release of former Hamas prisoners. Those prisoners, released once by Israel in 2011, were rearrested last month in the West Bank. Meanwhile, Israel continues its relentless pounding of militants in Gaza. The Israel Defense Force says Hamas is holding the people of Gaza hostage. Attempts at a ceasefire Tuesday were short-lived. After only a few hours, with Hamas rockets still being fired from Gaza, Israel resumed airstrikes. Israel is warning people living in Gaza to get out and stay away from Hamas. Leaflets were dropped and text messages sent, warning people living in the north and east of Gaza to get out of harm's way. Many Palestinians are leaving, trying to escape the Israeli bombardment. And there's been no let-up in rockets fired by Hamas into Israel. Some families in the midst of the violence are heeding the warnings. One family with several children even boarded a cart pulled by a donkey to escape the violence in Gaza. American diplomacy seems to be making very little difference right now, but it's not for the State Department's lack of trying.
Well, our concern is to have a legitimate ceasefire and see if we can find a way to stop the conflict, killing, so we can get to the real issues that are underlying it. We're doing everything in our power. I've been in touch with Prime Minister Netanyahu, with the Egyptians, the Foreign Minister, with others in the region, and we'll continue to dialogue on it.
The Israeli army is now saying it will take a 5-hour humanitarian pause tomorrow morning, but intends to retaliate if Hamas launches attacks during that time. Now some of the other stories our EWTN News Nightly team has been covering in today's world. A bill that attempts to undo the Supreme Court's Hobby Lobby decision is debated in the Senate today. Our Jason Calvi is back on Capitol Hill tonight with that story. Jason?
Brian, the bill is defeated, at least for now. It would have required employers to provide birth control for their employees, regardless of the boss's religious views. The Supreme Court said the owners of Hobby Lobby in Conestoga Wood can't be forced to violate their faith. But not so quick. The Senate proposal would undo that ruling.
The Hobby Lobby case has now opened the door for the vast majority of companies and bosses to start denying their employees contraceptive coverage if the owners have a religious objection. We must slam the door shut.
Today, senators debated a bill that would force employers to cover all mandated health benefits, including birth control.
The bill that is being voted on with this floor, if it were adopted, would fine the Little Sisters of the Poor millions of dollars unless these Catholic nuns are willing to pay for abortion-producing drugs for others. When did the Democratic Party declare war on the Catholic Church?
Following an afternoon of speeches on this proposal, the senators voted on whether to end debate and bring the issue to the floor for a vote.
The motion is not agreed to.
They didn't get the needed 60 votes, so the bill won't be voted on today, but Senate Democrats said the fight isn't over.
We are going to vote again on this issue before this year is out.
And the Democrats are looking to hold on to their majority here at the Senate. Republicans blasted them, saying this proposal, was just being used to recruit votes for at-risk Democrats this fall. Already one pro-abortion group is airing TV ads blasting Senator Mitch McConnell for not supporting this bill. Brian?
Thank you. Jason Calvi on Capitol Hill. And the Catholic Campaign for Human Development has cut off funding to an Oregon immigrant rights group over its affiliation with an organization that supports redefining marriage. Campaign Director Ralph McLeod said the Portland group was asked to cut its ties with a large Latino civil rights organization that endorses so-called marriage equality. By refusing to do so, McLeod said the organization self-disqualified itself from the funding process and a $75,000 grant. Local labor, immigrant rights, and groups that support gay rights have vowed to raise the funds to fill the financial hole left by the loss of that grant. Well, a powerful committee in the House of Representatives is considering whether or not to move forward with a plan to sue the President of the United States. That suit centers around the idea that President Obama disregards the law concerning the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare. Republicans say they have to do something, but Democrats claim it's politically motivated.
My fear is that our nation is currently facing the exact threat that the Constitution is designed to avoid. Branches of government have always attempted to exert their influences on other branches, but the President, in my opinion, has gone too far.
This is a partisan political stunt timed to peak in the House of Representatives in November, right as the midterm elections are happening.
The House is expected to vote on whether to file the suit sometime before the August recess. A just-released poll gives us a look into the concern of Americans over the crisis at the border. The new Gallup poll shows 1 in 6 think immigration is the most pressing problem for the country, a jump since June. As EWTN News Nightly's Susie Pinto reports tonight, while many Americans might be worried, this is a top priority for law enforcement.
All across America, people are talking about the crisis at the border. Children without their parents traveling by foot and by train, doing whatever it takes to make it to the land of opportunity. But it's leaving law enforcement officers wondering what to do about the influx of immigrants. And one sheriff in Arizona says the federal government isn't helping cops figure out the answer.
I have the questions legitimate, I believe, from a law enforcement and public health perspective. But certainly the citizens of the county who live there want answers. There's not a better recipe for disaster than rolling it out this way with a lack of information, not calling the local officials and providing information. I think that more than anything would de-escalate everything.
Protests like this one with activists from both sides showed just how much the de-escalation is needed. But this protest wasn't all yelling and screaming. Despite the madness, voices of reason.
We're putting prejudice over kindness here. We're putting prejudice over compassion here. That's what's happening.
I would like to see them just sent back. I understand that they're children. I understand that this is not their doing. But there has to be a stop to this someplace, and it's too bad that it has to happen this way.
Even with the clamor from officials and residents along border towns, an answer from Washington may not come soon. In the meantime, Catholics will continue to pray for a solution. Susie Pinto, EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you, Susie. Meanwhile, we've learned that President Obama met today with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus about this immigration issue. We have Ashley Feasley, an immigration policy advisor with the USCCB, joining us tonight. You know, there's been a little bit of talk of political compromise. A couple of lawmakers on either side of the aisle from Texas have come up with a bipartisan proposal. What is it that the bishops would like to see to resolve this issue?
I think the bishops would like to see a regional approach to this, where we look at root causes and we also look at dangers in the journey and safety and human rights protection for the children while they're here. They're looking for a holistic solution.
So what exactly are they advocating for these immigrants? I know that they don't get involved in the issue itself of how the government should, control the immigration process so much as how do we treat people?
I think it's important that as Catholics we focus on the moral dignity and compassion that these children deserve. And many of the immigrants who are here are good people who want to work and be with their families. You know, in the Bible it says, I was a stranger and you welcomed me. And as Catholics we should move forward with that idea.
But they're breaking the law. I mean, is it moral to support illegal immigration?
I think a lot of these individuals are here because they don't have other opportunities. Holy Father himself spoke yesterday about these migrant children and the need for us to protect them and show them compassion, and also try and understand that a lot of them are truly refugees and they need and deserve to have their due process protections.
All right, speaking for the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, Ashley Feasley, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, the Pope is going to visit South Korea in just a month from now, and the Catholic Church there is gearing up for that visit. Today, the official website for the papal trip was launched. Pope Francis will travel to Seoul to beatify 124 Korean martyrs and celebrate Asian Youth Day. He chose Korea as his first pilgrimage to Asia. Arise, shine is the motto for the trip. EWTN News Nightly's Alan Holdred is traveling with Pope Francis. We'll have full coverage in August, and later tonight, we're going to hear the Asian Youth Day theme song. It's beautiful. Investigators are preparing to file charges against 2 Moscow subway workers in the wake of yesterday's deadly train crash. The senior Moscow track foreman and his assistant have been detained and are being questioned. Investigators say a rail switch at the point where the train left the tracks wasn't properly installed during repairs made in May. It was attached to the rail by a single 3mm wire. People are leaving flowers outside metro stations across the Russian capital, honoring the 22 who died. Hundreds lined up for a blood drive to help the commuters, 136 of them who were injured. The U.S. announces new sanctions against Russia. The penalties come as Russian combat troops build up along the Ukrainian border and Ukrainian refugees flee by the hundreds. Families are separating as refugees board buses heading to Russia. Those leaving say it's safer to cross over than to stay in eastern Ukraine with ongoing violence. Hundreds of civilians are believed to have been killed in the conflict, but there's no reliable official death toll. Bashar al-Assad has been sworn in for a new 7-year term as president of Syria today. He won a national election in June, but Western leaders described it as a parody of democracy. The inauguration in Damascus takes place after more than 3 years of civil war. 150,000 people have died in the fighting. Millions more were displaced. Severe weather is causing death and destruction in parts of Southeast Asia. The first major typhoon of the season slams the Philippines, leaving at least 5 dead. Typhoon Ramosan, also called Glenda, is packing the force of a Category 3 hurricane. Hundreds of thousands have evacuated their homes across the island chain. The capital city of Manila has been hit with damaging winds, drenching rain, storm surges, and mudslides. The typhoon could impact 43 million people and reach Category 4 strength before hitting China later in the week. Coming up, balancing work and family. New government guidelines could make it easier for pregnant moms. And a flowering industry in Europe. It's tough on the pickers, but July heat is great for lavender production. On this Thursday evening, thank you for joining us for EWTN News Nightly. I'm Brian Patrick. Pope Francis plans to meet with thousands of elderly in an open-air audience in St. Peter's Square at the end of September. The September 28th event will include an audience and a Mass with the Holy Father. It's called The Blessing of a Long Life, the first meeting of its kind during the pontificate of Pope Francis. Thousands of elderly, many of them grandparents, are expected to attend.
This meeting is necessary to proclaim to the world that elderly are inside the church, are inside the society, against these awful signs that are visible in society today.
Seniors interested in attending the Blessing of a Long Life can visit the Pontifical Council for the Family's website. It is simply family.va. A victory for motherhood. A new federal guideline this week says harassing or discriminating against pregnant women is illegal. This is the first time in 30 years the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission, or EEOC, has updated pregnancy discrimination guidelines. Under this policy, employers cannot force women to take leave. They also can be required to provide light duty for pregnant workers, and employers have to give men equal treatment when it comes to parental leave. We have Gail Trotter from the Independent Women's Forum with us tonight. What specific rights do pregnant women get under these guidelines in the
Well,
workplace?
I just want to preface it by saying we already have the Pregnancy Discrimination Act, which was passed in 1978, and these guidelines substantively change the law and create a lot more rights for women by tacking it on to the Americans with Disability Act. And they did this without any notice, any public notice, any opportunity to comment, or any debate in Congress. So it's really not a victory for mothers and pregnant women.
That's kind of the way things go here in Washington these days. So you are a working mom of 6. What do you think would help working women, especially those expecting?
I'm glad you asked that, because I think women need choices and they need flexibility in the marketplace. And when we have these one-size-fits-all regulations that come down from Washington, D.C., that employers have a very hard time even understanding, then they're not able to offer the flexibility that women need in the workplace, especially pregnant women. And you know that pregnant women are not all just the same. They're not all just one lump. So women need different things based on their medical circumstances and their family circumstances.
These guidelines are thick, they're dense, they're long. Who is going to interpret them for the everyday expectant mom?
Ignorance is no defense in the law, so the employers are going to have to spend a lot of time trying to figure out what they're obligated under, but there is a Supreme Court case that is coming up in the next term that will decide some of these issues. So the EEOC was premature in coming out with these guidelines before the Supreme Court has had a chance to weigh in, and women may make some decisions based on these guidelines that might be reversed by the Supreme Court.
What about leave after pregnancy? The EEOC states employers who allow parental leave must provide it to men and women equally. That would assume that men and women are equal in this process, which I don't think is accurate.
No, there's reality. There are physical circumstances that make pregnancy and labor and delivery much more difficult for women. So you're really disadvantaging women by saying that they must be treated just like men and men must just be treated the same way as them. Because women have great medical things that go on and physical difficulties that come with delivering children, and they should be recognized for that and given extra benefits for that.
Yeah. Perhaps when men start having babies, they should be treated equally with pregnancy leave. I don't know. Gail Trotter with the Independent Women's Forum, thanks for joining us tonight. Well, facing its worst drought in 40 years, California is taking desperate measures to conserve water resources. Many reservoirs across the state are running dry. Now state regulators plan to levy fines of up to $500 a day for wasting water. This means you can't water your lawn so much that it runs off into the sidewalk or makes a pool like that. And washing your car without a nozzle on the hose could draw a fine. A Northern California marijuana farmer is being blamed for a large fire. Forestry officials say the 27-year-old marijuana grower was tending his pot crop when exhaust from his truck caught dry grass on fire. That blaze has already burned through 13 square miles, destroying 8 homes. Bulgaria is taking the lead in the fragrant business of producing lavender. Traditionally produced by French farmers for the cosmetics industry, Bulgarian lavender is now a blossoming business. A beautiful carpet of organic lavender stretches for 250 acres at the foot of the Balkan Mountains in Bulgaria. Dozens of workers are picking purple lavender blossoms in the blistering heat. At temperatures close to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, the blossom's concentration of oil is at its highest. Within 24 hours, bags packed with lavender petals are taken to the nearby distillery. There, workers press them by foot before the precious oil is extracted in a steam distillation process. Bulgarian farmers have expanded their output of lavender oil, leaving France, the traditional leader in lavender production, lagging behind.
Bulgarian producers are exporting more than, I would say, 60–70% of our production to France. And buyers of Bulgarian lavender oil are not only French cosmetic companies, but also French producers of lavender oil.
Despite the beautiful setting, work in the fields is tough. Skilled workers can pick more than 600 pounds of blossoms per day. One of the country's top producers says Bulgaria has doubled its production of lavender essential oil this year. Up next, more options for fresh food, the trend that keeps people coming back. Plus, he's got moves like Jeter. A look at last night's MLB All-Star game. It is Wednesday, July 16th, and you're with EWTN News Nightly. Good Good evening, I'm Brian Patrick. Farmers markets and gardens flourish at this time of year, and increasingly big institutions are seeking to buy and serve locally grown food. Catherine Elliott has the story tonight.
The farm-to-table concept has moved beyond neighborhood farmers markets. A growing national trend is giving smaller farms access to big customers.
We are trying to provide to our customers the most healthful food that we can.
Patients and visitors at Thomas Jefferson University Hospital are now able to dine on locally grown foods. Creamy yogurts from Amish country and omelets made with spinach and locally sourced cage-free eggs. The hospital gets about 10% of its food from the Common Market, a Philadelphia nonprofit that connects farmers to the lucrative city market.
People who shop for hotels or hospitals or schools don't go to farmers markets, don't go to CSAs. They don't have the time.
Common Market is one of about 300 other so-called food hubs that have sprung up around the country, feeding buyers' appetites to know more about their food.
It's nice to see people take an interest in the local movement, and these distributors that specialize in it really help in spreading the movement.
Thanks to more than $25 million in federal aid in the last 5 years, food hubs are helping foster a culture shift, away from the big farms and away from staple crops like corn, soybeans, and wheat.
We're seeing a diversity of operations, of size of operations, of crops that are being grown, of methods, and of operators. And I think that is transformative.
Seeing a sustained growth in sales, the food hub model is already working for small farms, and they're counting on their local fresh produce to keep customers coming back for more. Catherine Elliott, EWTN News Nightly.
Great story, Catherine. Makes me hungry. The American League gets bragging rights and home field advantage to the 2014 World Series. The AL wins last night's All-Star Game. Some big hits from Derek Jeter helped a lot. Jeter had a pair of leadoff hits in the game. The American League wins 5-3. This was Jeter's last game. He got a standing ovation as he left the field.
It makes me feel good. I mean, this All-Star Game is about everyone that's here. It's not about one particular person. And, you know, I've always been uncomfortable, so to speak, when, you know, the focus is on me. And I felt as though that the focus should be on everyone that's in this game.
Jeter says he hopes that he can be a positive influence for young players. By the way, the AL gets home field advantage in the World Series. It's noteworthy that the past 5 years, the team with home field advantage has won the title. Well, selfie photos have been around a whole lot longer than our smartphones and social media. In fact, NASA astronaut Buzz Aldrin took the first space selfie in 1966. Here's the story in his own words.
Gee whiz. Look at that horizon. Curved a little bit. And the clouds are way down there. I wonder what the picture's going to look like. I didn't realize that I was pioneering the selfies.
Gemini 12 was headed for an orbit.
We were docked to the other spacecraft, Agena. There was an experimenter from Northwestern University, and he wanted pictures taken of ultraviolet stars.
It was devoted to star photography.
So we could only take pictures at night.
The pilot took ultraviolet photographs of the
This camera is fixed. So Jim Lovell is going to have to get that thing pointed just right at the right star system, shut off thruster. And then I go click. I didn't have a wash. Click. I take a picture. Then the sun comes up. During the day pass, I'm looking down at the Astrodome, some of the lakes around Houston. So what am I going to do during the daytime? Look at the camera and hit the button. What for? I don't know. I wonder what I'll look like. Another claim to fame for Buzz.
And looking pretty good up there in space. Until tomorrow, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Watch again anytime you like on EWTN's YouTube page. Finally tonight, Asian Youth Day 2014 with Pope Francis is just 1 month away, so we leave you with the music video of the Youth Day theme song. Good night and God bless you.
Try